You got 2 minutes.
Okay, welcome everyone to our regular meeting of council. 2 o'clock on October 28th. Before we start, we will just recognize that we're holding our meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Hoopachesit and Sashot First Nations. Are there any late items identified by councillors? None. And any late items from the city clerk?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Would somebody like to move approval of our agenda?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Okay, and no comments. All in favor? Carried. We have minutes from the special meeting of council held at 12:30 and the regular meeting of council held at 2 p.m. on October 15th.
Move to adopt.
Is there a seconder? And are there any comments or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Public input period is an opportunity for members of the public to address council on topics of relevance. Would any members of the public like to speak?
Go to the street and just grab some.
This is the first time in a while we have had no public input, so okay, moving on. We have no delegations today and no unfinished business. So moving on to staff reports. Item 1 is accounts. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the certification of the Deputy Director of Finance dated October 28, 2019 be received and checks numbering 144757 to 144835, inclusive of payments of accounts totaling $658,168.17 be approved.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? And any comments? All in favor? Carried. Item 2 from the Director of Engineering and Public Works, we have the Effluent Pump Station Platform Contract.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So yeah, as my report says, we have the final piece of the puzzle for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So this particular tender, we had tendered earlier in the year and came in over budget. I think it would have been about $4.3 million. Had the consultants go back to the drawing boards. Previously we were talking about a floating pump or a set of floating pump stations. We thought we could save some money by building one on piles. So steel platforms on piles. These are connected via a walkway to the berms. Also, they house the large pumps that'll pump the effluent out of the lagoons into the UV treatment plant, and then from there they'll go out in the new outfall. So while we did only get one bid on this, it was a little bit more than what the estimate was. It will save us, at 3.2, just over 3.2 million, plus the pumps. We were at about 3.5. So we did save about probably $800,000 by going back to the drawing board on this one. And again, this is the last piece of the upgrades, short of what happens with the existing lagoon. So that's still to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, if you have any questions.
Question from council? Councillor Solta.
So this is the end. We're finito after all this, right?
So this is the last tender for the upgrades and the rebuilding of the catalyst lagoons. So this will put all the pieces together. The general contractor was the bidder on this, so for coordination purposes it'll be a lot better.
I like you sharpening that pencil and giving us an $800,000 decrease. Right on.
Thank you. No other comments from council? Okay. Councillor Solda, would you like to read that motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that the report dated October 22nd, 2019 from the Director of Engineering and Public Works be received, and Council for the City of Port Alberni award the contract for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades for the supply, manufacturing, and installation of 2 effluent pump station platforms to Tritech Group Limited at a cost of $3,229,180.75 plus GST with funds provided in the 2019 financial plan.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments? All in favor? Carried. And item 3 from the Director of Engineering and Public Works, the Gertrude Street Bridge Deck Joint Replacement Contract Award.
Yeah, so the Gertrude Street Bridge over Roger Creek. So this is on the other end of Gertrude from the one that we did a few years ago. Yeah, this was identified over the last couple of years, and we've been watching some deterioration below this particular joint. There's some water that's been getting through. It was recommended that this deck joint get replaced. So we did tender that, got a good bunch of bids. Actually, some of them are a little strange, but I don't think they quite understood what some of the work was. Luckily, we've got a good bid from Main Road Mid-Island Contracting, who also is our road and bridge maintenance contractor in Mid-Island as well as the rest of the island. So they're very familiar with the type of work here, very familiar with providing traffic control, which will be a big deal, particularly in that location. Yeah, they've got between January 31st is the deadline for completion of the project, so they'll work around Christmas. The actual time that they'll be working, and disrupting traffic will be a lot less. I think they're in their schedule. They've shown about 4 weeks, so I'm hoping they'll get it done in a shorter time than that, because traffic will be a bit of a headache there.
Okay. Are there questions from Council? Councillor Solda.
Just a quick question. When the bridge was worked on a couple of years ago or so, this was not done, or
This
was
is a different bridge.
Yeah, this is a different bridge. So you're thinking of Gertrude Bridge, probably at Catsuxis Creek. So this is Roger Creek, which is just
I
right by
realize that.
Roger.
Okay, so it was supposed to be, wasn't it in the plan at one time, or no?
In this year's
This year.
Just
year's
this
capital
year's.
plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
going
done
back.
we've done a bunch of work on Roger Creek on the Victoria Quay,
Yeah,
just
okay.
below this.
So so how much of a diversion will it be for the traffic? Because people have asked me about it, like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the idea will be there's 4 lanes on that bridge.
Yes.
So we'll leave 1 lane in each direction during construction. So they'll close
Okay.
down one side at a time and then close the other side down.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you're comfortable, I'm just looking at the bids, we go from 83 to 275, but Main Road knows exactly what you want them to do. and-
Yeah, before writing this report and after the tenders were closed, we've talked to them and they totally understand what's going on there. They do a lot of this kind of work, so.
Councillor Haggard.
That was my concern as well. You have the lowest bid and the next one, it's less than half of what the next bid amount is. So that always concerns me when there's a big variance in bids, if they're actually bidding on the same thing or, but if you're comfortable, I'll take your word for it.
The engineer's estimate was a little bit more than what the low bid was, but not anywhere near what the high bids were, so.
Okay. Councillor Paulson.
No, I just wanted clarification so that everybody knew exactly which bridge it was, so, good job, thanks.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, I think the amount we put in the budget for this was 200 or 250,000. So this is just a piece of the project.
So there's 200,000 in this year's budget. Wanted also, there was some riprap that's missing. There's a bit of armoring work that needs to happen around the creek. And that work has to happen during the summer fisheries window. So we're a little late getting at that this year. I wanted to make sure it was done right and all the drawings and everything. So I've got that piece ready to go. So with the money that's remaining in the budget this year, we'll be able to carry that over to next year and get that work done as well.
Okay. And so we expect that generally, you said that this was a bit under the estimate from the engineer. So we would think that the whole project is on track to be under or on budget.
Absolutely.
Most
yep.
likely.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Paulson, would you like to read this motion?
Sure, I would. I'd like to move that the report dated October 22nd, 2019, from the Director of Engineering and Public Works be received, and that Council for the City of Port Alberni award the contract for the Gertrude Street, Roger Creek Bridge Deck Joint Replacement to Main Road Mid-Island Contracting for $83,870 plus GST, with the funds provided in the 2019 financial plan.
Great. Is there a seconder? Second. And seeing no further comments, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4 from the Deputy City Clerk, Climate Leaders Institute Workshop, Authorized Council Attendee. So we have this report in front of us, just speaking to what's left in our council budget. It looks like there's more than enough. So I will move that the report from the Deputy City Clerk dated October 21st, 2019 be received and council authorize Councillor Poon to attend the Climate Leaders Institute 2-day workshop on November 7th and 8th in Richmond, BC. Okay, and are there any comments? Questions? None? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And item 5 from the Deputy City Clerk, the 2020 to 2024 Financial Plan Budget Proposed Schedule Timelines.
Purposes of this report is bring up the draft schedule and just comment that Council is aware that deadlines around your financial planning process are May 15th of the following year that your financial plan must be adopted. In between that time, it's certainly Council's prerogative as to what level of consultation or discussions around your budget planning process entail. The schedule outlined in front of you is being proposed for your consideration and discussion, and it speaks everywhere for individual departmental presentations, inviting external organizations, and first reading of a bylaw, public engagement sessions, etc. So again, those dates are there for discussion purposes and just to start the discussion amongst yourselves as to what you would like to see as you move into your financial planning process.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I like the schedule. The only date I will not be available because I'll be on holidays is January 13th, but otherwise it's great. I'll be part of the discussion and everything, so I'm happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Paulson.
I concur with the schedule and everything. I think it looks great, and we're getting to the point that we had asked that we start this process a little earlier, and I'm happy to see that we're actually late November and into early December rather than jamming it in from January to me, because it does feel constricting sometimes. So well done, you guys.
Okay, absolutely. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So our third, like the dates, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th, would they be like at 6 p.m. or 12:30, or would they be a night thing so we could have more folks in the gallery?
For sure. I think we could probably do a variety of times. You know, we always think that more people will come in the evening, but as we've seen with our council meetings, not today. Today is a bad example, but I would say that we've had a lot more engagement since we switched to 2 p.m. meetings. But that said, I think we should find a balance for budget meetings and hold some in the day and some in the evenings. So I think this probably gives us some flexibility. Deputy City Clerk, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, it certainly does. What we've outlined here is dates of those particular weeks that seem to be clear, and that not being a Monday or a Friday. Council's prerogative as to whether you want to hold those discussions in the daytime, mid-afternoon, early evening, later in the evening, and we just look to you for direction on that. With regards to the departmental presentations, we would be looking at a minimum of 1 hour from each department. Some may be a little bit longer, some may be shorter. And then with the external organizations, we are specific as to those that we have identified that you may wish to invite. We would probably look for some direction from you to solidify what we have identified as external presenters to you.
Okay, Councillor Corbeil.
Yeah, could I just ask for some clarity? I see January 13th is, and I realize this isn't etched in stone, but we're talking about first reading on January 13th. It's not till the end of the month we're starting to get community input. What do we mean by first reading? Should those not be reversed, that we're looking at community input before we start the first reading?
Madam Mayor and Council, the purpose of a first reading of a bylaw is to allow for introduction. So certainly it lays on the table and basically announces to those in the public, this is where we are. Now it's open to the public and ready for discussion. So that's the purpose behind the first reading. it does not negate, like, council is aware that you can always amend at second and third, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from Councillor Solda?
Yeah, just a quick one. There's a couple of meetings scheduled during the day, like ACRD on one of these things. Could we get back to you whether the night or the day works better on some of these?
I think our staff has ACRD
Okay.
schedules, and if there's specific other conflicts, maybe we can just let staff know.
Sure.
Again, this is just kind of a template for moving forward. It's not the final schedule, and staff would be looking at availability for each of those dates.
Super.
I think what we want to talk about today, and just make sure that everyone is kind of forms a consensus around the general structure. So last year we didn't do full departmental presentations, and I think that we heard from some councillors that, especially some of the newer people, didn't feel they had quite enough information at the start. So the CAO is kind of proposing that we go through and get some more of that base level knowledge so that councillors can feel comfortable. So we wanted to make sure that council is in support of that. And then I think we should start having some conversation about generally what type of public engagement and how much public engagement we want to have. Most of our budget is going to be formed around our strategic plan. We've gone through I think, pretty extensive process around our strategic plan, and now it's going to be fitting our strategic plan into our budget. So, how do we want to engage the public in that, and in what settings? In the past, we've done quite a variety of online input. We've had roundtables at ECHO. We've had outreach in other ways. So I think we should start having some conversation around what that piece will look like this year, and how we make sure that I think the public is understanding of what our strategic plan is, and why we're moving forward the way that we are, and take input while we do that. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing I struggled with a lot last year, besides being new to council, was that when members of staff were doing ask for specific projects, there would be like a one line, and that was all the information we had. I would like to have a little bit more information from staff. What is the project? And if it's maybe a drawing, like I remember Rob Goodrow presented an idea, and because it was only one line, I couldn't picture it. But if you had had a drawing of it so that you could know more about what the project really is, I think maybe that project might even been approved at that time. So maybe just a little bit more information from staff when they're doing ask for projects would be very beneficial. I would really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Your silence is telling me everyone is happy with this schedule and general layout.
So far.
So far. Okay. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read the motion there? No. And you can
Yeah,
read it to move forward with the schedule.
I move that the report from Deputy City Clerk dated October 21st, 2019 be moved, and I would also move that we move forward with the proposed schedule
Great. Is there a
as
second?
presented.
Perfect. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And moving on to item 6 from the City Clerk, Harbor Key lease of unit number 13. Would you like to speak to just generally if it's a new business, if there's changes to the lease?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a renewal lease for one of the small units within Spirit Square. So a two-year renewal, adding in the clauses that we have been adding into the leases down there around opening hours and being open for events. Otherwise, no changes.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Councillor Poon, would you like to read this one?
Yes, I'll move that Council for City of Port Alberni authorize the Mayor and Clerk to enter into a lease for unit number 13 at the Alberni Harbor Key with Gwen and Norman Lowe for the purpose of operating retail sales of crafts and wooden toys for a term commencing December 1st, 2019 to November 30th, 2021 at the current monthly rent of $299.22 per month plus applicable taxes.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the lease? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And item 7 from the city clerk, we have current bylaw department initiatives.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to update council regarding some of the initiatives that are underway in the bylaw department. The first relates to Bear Smart. As council is aware, the city of Port Alberni is designated by the province as an official Bear Smart community. And with that comes responsibility for all of us to ensure we work to retain that status. Through our manager of communications, significant public outreach has been undertaken as part of the ongoing education campaign to ensure people are aware of their responsibilities around reducing human-bear conflicts and minimizing animal attractants. The details of the campaign are outlined in the report, but they do include a newsletter, the City Connect newsletter that goes out with utility bills, newspaper advertising, online digital advertising, postcards that have been sent to every household in the community, online media. Bears are at their most aggressive over the next few weeks, and so our conservation officers and the city's bylaw team will be continuing their garbage enforcement campaign throughout the city, beginning the weekend of November 3rd. Residents are reminded that garbage should always be placed in a secured enclosure between pickups, and that carts should be taken to the curb on their specific collection day. And more information on this can be found on the city's website as well. Also, public education has been continuing in regards to utility trailers, boat trailers, and RVs being stored on city streets or boulevards in contravention to the city's traffic regulation bylaw. Again, there's been outreach regarding this through the City Connect newsletter, newspaper advertising, and through the city's social media sites. For the most part, the enforcement at this time focuses on education and consists primarily of a warning, with owners being given time to move their trailers. Immediate action will be taken if trailers are deemed to be causing a safety issue, but otherwise the bylaw department is working with people on timelines for removal. And also just bringing awareness that the graffiti removal program is still active and has been successful in providing assistance to property owners affected by vandalism. The bylaw department is proactive in their approach, but they also rely on the public to report graffiti in order that it can be dealt with in a timely manner. The program provides property owners with a voucher that permits 1 can of paint and a brush, up to a $60 value. And again, bylaw officers work with owners on a timeline to complete the work. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Silva.
It's been interesting because social media is going nuts over the fining of the campers and different things like that on social media, and they don't understand how can a bylaw officer work on a weekend, but they don't realize we also have 2 bylaw officers. But I just want to bring up that the conservation officers are now not even giving the public education. They're just fining now. They said they've done that, and now they're going out and giving people fines if they have their garbages open. So just another warning for the public, just to make sure you close your garbage, lock your garbage cans up, and go with the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you could provide just any kind of update on the graffiti removal program. I'm sure we've all noticed the huge increase in graffiti in the community over the last couple of months. We might want to ask our RCMP inspector when he comes up next if he has any update on that from their perspective. But I feel like we really got graffiti in the community hugely under control, and then it's very clearly 1 or 2 people, because it's pretty consistent, but it's kind of popping up on tons of businesses around town right now. And I'm wondering if those are active files that we're working with, or if we're waiting for people to report them.
I think, Madam Mayor, you hit the nail on the head. Potentially Inspector Hunter can comment more. I think it is a couple of individuals. Yeah. And our bylaw officers are proactive when they see graffiti. But it does pop up in a number of different places, and they do rely on the public to report that.
Okay.
I don't have statistics, but Inspector Hunter may comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions, Councillor Haggard, could you read that motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the report from the city clerk dated October 21st, 2019, providing an update regarding current bylaw department initiatives be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to managers' reports. Director of Parks, Recreation, and Heritage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have my monthly report in front of you there, and I wanted to bring your attention to one statistic that has been included in that swimming lesson registrations have increased an average of 20% from this time last year, which is very encouraging. And I'm looking forward to working with our new manager of recreation services in the new year to be able to develop future and further statistics so we can start to manage trends better and look at how and where and what we program throughout the department as well. So it's encouraging, but more information to come. And I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Solda.
I had a lady come up to me and had some concerns about accessibility into the Eco Center, that she would like to use Eco Center a little more. So she's talking about railings. When you walk in, when you go down the slopes or up the hills, however, to get into Eco, however you park, she has to lean against the walls to get in there because she's on a walker. She can hardly walk. And she's wondering, has Eco Center ever looked at putting a railing so people could hold on when they walk in?
Well, I can comment, Madam Mayor, that I've approached the Rick Hansen Foundation about looking at accessibility grants, and those types of things are in process because, of course, the building we're speaking to was built over 50 years ago. I'd need to, in order to make further comment, I'd need to know more specifics about where we're referring to, because the exterior of the building versus interior, and of course, if an individual is using a walker, the ability to utilize a walker and use a handrail would be very difficult to navigate both.
She's often on a walker, but even coming in through the museum and going down to the main desk, she leans against that whole thing. I'll ask her to come and see you and have that discussion with you, and you can check that out.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corbeil.
Yes, in your report, you talk about the Western Vancouver Island Industrial Heritage Society and mention that the boiler workers are returning to work this month to work on the number 7. Do you have any idea on when they hope to complete that project?
Madam Mayor, I don't have that updated timing at this stage, but I'd be happy to reach out and confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
Just a quick comment. On Sunday, I was out helping with the first shift program. There's 40 little people, and you spend a lot of time just picking kids up off the ice. But one of the comments we had with instructors afterwards is parents are bringing their children to that session, and there's only 4 or 5 or 6 of them. Maybe just have one of your staff drop in to the dressing room while the parents are still around doing skates and say, look, we also have public skating sessions. The kids can wear their gear, and you might be able to get some of the, it's skating that's important, and they're only coming out to those 1 sessions, and might be an opportunity for Parks and Rec to step in and maybe even get some of the little ones into Timbits too. You know, jack that registration up too.
Thank you.
Get Buff in there and tie in some skates.
Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, number 7 was on my list, but also I'm happy to see your Film Fest series is going very well. People mention it on Sunday after it's been sold out for 3 or 4 days, so good on Shelley for getting that done. And at the heritage end of it, we were talking about, it's been thrown around about charging admission at the museum. Are we any closer to any kind of decision there with admission charge to the museum?
Yeah, so Madam Mayor, you may recall that Council had directed staff to look at really reinforcing how we honor and manage our assets, and ensuring that we're being most efficient and capitalizing wherever we can. And so one of the discussions was around potentially charging admission or generating revenue in additional sources to the museum most specifically. And so we've got a bit of a task force working behind the scenes now to explore, rather than just an arbitrary admission process where you're just paying admission when you come and visit our community museum. That's not always the case. So we've been researching a variety of museums on Vancouver Island and beyond in our community model versus other museum types. as well as we're looking at an Adopt an Artifact program, a Friends of the Museum program. So we're looking at a variety, a multi-pronged approach so that we can find creative ways to generate revenue as opposed to defaulting to an admissions model, which the Heritage Commission and myself are not convinced that's the way to go. So the short answer, Madam Mayor, is it's in progress.
Thank you, and I appreciate you looking at all of those options. One piece of feedback that I've heard from a lot of younger families is that they are not aware that the museum is free. And so they don't go in because, you know, they might be lower income families and don't know if they need to pay or not. So it might be, I mean, we do have the luxury of a museum without fees. It might be worth putting some signage out front more visibly so that to encourage more young families to go in.
Thank you.
And the one thing I was going to ask about was for a bit of an update on the McLean Mill Garage project. If I remember correctly, I think we got $60,000 in funding from the federal government, $30,000 from Parks or from Regional District, and $30,000 from us, which is a great partnership. Wondering if that project is on budget, and I think that money was going to some other projects as well out there.
Correct. So yes, you're accurate in the delineation of funds, and the project is on schedule and is on budget. Many thanks to Rob Cranevelt, our facility operations supervisor, is doing a tremendous job managing this project. So the one image that you'll see on the first page of my report there on page 34 is the McLean Mill garage there with not having a roof on it at the stage and dealing with some of the soil encroachment. So like I said, it is on schedule. So we're looking at the Arnold garage specifically, as well as a variety of roofs on other structures. So we were able to, within the grant of the $120,000 that we've partnered with Parks Canada, we had initially thought that we would provide temporary solutions to a variety of roofs at the mill. We've been actually able to, the plan is to replace them all. And so it's very encouraging to see us able to leverage those grant funds and then be able to over-deliver what we had initially intended. So we expect all those roofs to be finished as permanent solutions before the end of 2019.
That's great. Great to hear. Okay, any other questions? Oh, Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I'm very pleased that you're keeping very good track of numbers and statistics so you can be more proactive when you see emerging trends. I know that hasn't been done before. Maybe it was more reactive instead of proactive, so congratulations on that. And I don't know if it's Parks and Rec or minor hockey that does the first shift program, but my grandson was a recipient and he was at skating on Sunday, public skating with his hockey gear on, feeling very proud. So it is a great program for people in the community. So yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, just to speak to that point, it is a minor hockey program, and so it's we'll pass those kudos on to them. And I agree with Councillor Paulson's note as well that I think there's a better synergy we can make there and ensure that those little ones, especially the ones starting out, have the opportunity to show off and test drive their gear throughout public programs, not just the one session.
Okay, thank you.
Just one last question.
Okay.
Just want to comment, the Waterworks program is finished at Bob Daly Stadium, right?
Correct, yes, and you'll see
Yeah.
we've done a variety of landscaping there, and there's still a bit more landscaping to come, but yes, the irrigation project at Bob Daly Stadium is complete.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to move receipt of this report?
Sure. Oh, yeah. I'd like to move that the report from the Director of Parks, Recreation and Heritage dated October 28, 2019, providing information about current departmental operations be received.
Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And our next report, Inspector Hunter.
Yeah, you didn't need that. That's what he said.
Welcome, Inspector Hunter.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Certainly, this is my first opportunity to address Council since the announcement at the end of August of my pending departure with a transfer. I just wanted to provide a little bit more detail there. As everyone knows, I really enjoy the city of Port Alberni and the Alberni Valley, both professionally work. It's a lot of fun here. There's a lot of work to do here, and working with community partners like yourselves has been outstanding. And personally, living here, It's a great place to live. Julie and I really enjoy it here. There were a few options presented to myself over the past few months that just couldn't compete with what we had going. I will say Penticton, it's a regional detachment that I will be in charge of. It's the Penticton, South Okanagan, Similkameen Regional Detachment, which means 5 other detachments, so 6 detachments in total, all part of my area there. So Princeton and Summerlin, Osoyoos, Oliver and Karameas. It's a great opportunity, basically all of southern BC, outside of the Lower Mainland and outside of the Kootenays. So it's an opportunity, and I'm very excited about it. But it's going to be a very emotional departure from Port Alberni for myself and Julie. I just want to express how appreciative I am over the last 3 and a bit years working here. And the support from the city has been outstanding, not just for me, but our entire detachment. We've made a lot of great progress at the detachment, and certainly CAO Apply has been a big part of that in helping us see our strategic goals and those types of things. So I did want to thank you for that. Real quickly, I'll go through the report. There were a total of 4,262 calls for service in the quarter that we received at the detachment, and of those 3,333 were within the city of Port Alberni. That is an increase of 14% over the same quarter last year, where there were 2,911 calls for service. Our violent crime is up from 100 to 147, but I once again, there should be an asterisk there. As I've discussed before, crime reporting changed effective January, and how our statistics are reported to Stats Canada. The numbers are going to be up. And real quickly, if perhaps you had an argument with your neighbor and you felt that there was a threat that was uttered there, if it couldn't be proven on the first instance, then that file would have been unsubstantiated, and it doesn't go to Stats Canada. But now what has to happen is, through a fulsome investigation, unequivocally 100% it did not occur, then it would be considered unfounded. But if that's not the case, it gets reported to Stats Canada. So certainly, especially if nobody wants charges, we're not going to spend 200 hours on a small file just for a check mark to Statistics Canada. So that's why those numbers are up. I will say, so we are up 47%, but across Vancouver Island, I ran the stats, and the violent crime is up 75%. So if we had the ability to go numbers for numbers per last year, one could speculate that perhaps our crime is actually down. I don't have the numbers to support that comment, but when across the island, violent crime is up 75% and we're up 47%, we're bucking the trend, and it will take a year for us to really know what our numbers are at in that regard. Property crime is up 30% from 410 to 534. I'll get into some specifics here in a bit. Across Vancouver Island, property crime is up 32%. Other criminal code offenses, and those are firearms offenses, breaches of bail and that type of thing, are up from 188 to 220. Drug offenses are down from 21 to 14, and I will say that's a symptom of our officers being very busy as well. A lot of our drug offenses are proactive work in the community, and when you see that number go down, it's indicative that we're just responding to calls for service and working on those calls, and we don't have as much proactive time as we would like. Overall crime from 719 up to 915, which is up 27%. Across Vancouver Island, total crime is up 47%. So real quickly, you'll see assaults from 56 up to 71 is one that I'd like to highlight, as well as uttering threats. And those are a symptom of the new reporting to Stats Canada. The property crimes that are up significantly is mischief to property is up from 92 to 114. Our thefts are nearly doubled from 66 to 120. Theft from vehicles have skyrocketed from 39 up to 92. You guys have heard me talk about theft from vehicles before. It's very frustrating. These criminals walk up and down the streets and they just lift in door handles. If the vehicle's unlocked, they're going in there and taking what they can. Anything that's visible in the vehicle. It's really a crime that we can prevent as community residents, just to not leave anything valuable in your vehicle and lock your vehicle. There's a routine out there. You may have heard it on the news, the 9 o'clock routine. Maybe make it an 8 o'clock routine, 10 o'clock at night. Go outside of your house, make sure all your vehicles are locked, everything's secure out there, and go to bed. So create a routine. It could certainly help us with that. As well, fraud is a property crime, and you'll see 19 up to 43. Once again, Stats Canada, all of those calls that come in, the Nigerian scams and all those are now being reported to Stats Canada. So that's why those numbers are up. Just a couple speaking points that I want to talk to. You've heard me say it before. We're not going to rest our way out of this, guys. This is not the only community, but this is the community at this point in time that I really care about. And if you had a magic solution to have everyone who is facing addictions get out of that toil of trouble that they're in, these crimes would go down dramatically. So we have to continue with our collaboration with other community services. Certainly our QUESA program that we have, the Indigenous Safety Team, that street level outreach that the police and mental health are providing to our clients, and we've had some great success there. We need a lot more of that. We need to get these folks out of their cycle. Property crime is a symptom of addictions when it really boils down to it. And I think we all know that the country is suffering in regards to opioid addictions. I want to speak real quickly, a good example of why I don't want community residents interacting with criminals if they see a crime in progress, or certainly there was that case several months ago where a lady tried to intervene with a person that had stolen a couple items from her vehicle. And the case I want to point out is, you just heard it on the news, Corey Smith, he's the fellow from out of province that came into our community, was on a drug binge for several days, ended up going into the Save On Foods and barricaded himself in one of the admin offices and was acting very bizarre. So there's a case, several officers, over 5 officers, multiple taser deployments, a police dog was there. This person did not feel any pain whatsoever. Very dangerous to interact with a person like that. You don't know who you're dealing with out there. You've heard me say that Port Alberni is a safe community, and generally speaking, it's a safe community. You do not want to interact with these folks. Leave that up to the police. I just wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to highlight the one case that clearly demonstrates one person can cause a lot of havoc in the community. James Jones Jr., you've heard that name in the news. In August, we went through a spate of commercial B&Es, thefts and B&Es, dozens and dozens of them in a very short period of time. He was arrested. He's currently still in jail, currently facing 24 charges, likely a lot more, but we were able to work with Crown Counsel and link this individual to 24 charges. That's one person. It's very significant. You've heard me say it before. You have a fantastic detachment here. They're putting the folks in jail. They're putting them before the courts. There is a news outlet in this community that does a very good job of monitoring what happens in court. They go there, they monitor the sentencing, and they follow these criminals. Follow the court list. It's a public document. Have a look. I would encourage people in the community, if they have the energy, to get a court watch program here. Follow from the time of arrest till release, and you can get a true picture of what's happening in the community. So our folks are putting them in jail. It's just a matter of getting them out of that cycle. And like I said at the beginning, we need to collaborate and continue with that. As your worship has heard me say before, our detachment has one of the highest arrest rates in the province. They're out there kicking butt. I just want to give a big thank you to the city helping us out with the Banfield bus crash. I was on the phone with CAO Apply immediately after that happened. Director Thorpe helped us out. We got the reception center going, and I got to tell you, Tim was just, what do you need? How many do you need? even though it didn't occur in the city, when things happen around here, we all get together and help each other out. So Tim, I thank you very much for that. And that's just another testament to the city and how you guys really give a you-know-what and help out when tragic things like that happen. So I really do appreciate your help in that regard. In regards to graffiti, you'd be surprised, we don't get a lot of calls for it. When we do, we certainly catalog their little defining signature and are able to connect the dots at times with that. But I really encourage the paint it over within 24 hours, 48, whatever you allow our clients out there to do. It really, it's the broken window theory, right? And it's a great program and it has a great effect. So I would encourage that to continue. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
I'm going to just reiterate what I said in the regional district meeting the other day. Inspector Hunter, I want to thank you so much for what you have brought to our community and your involvement personally in the community. I think it's been wonderful, and you've become a great friend. My second part of my question is mischief to property, and I gather that graffiti is kind of in there, but there's a significant jump in that. Does this include what is mischief to property?
So, Your Worship, it's damage to your property, but a lot of these crimes, for example, this fellow that went on a spate of B&Es and crimes in August created a lot of property damage too. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage trying to get in and steal $100 worth of stuff. So a lot of that is in there as well. And certainly there's often just dumb behavior by some people out there that just damage things for the fun of it. And graffiti would be part of it as well. But generally it's damaging, vandalism, that type of thing.
Anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to call you Brian because
Please do.
you're on your way out, so you can't throw me in jail for a call.
Please
but
do.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And part of what CAO Apply has helped us with is a lot of restructuring at the detachment with the goal of crime reduction and getting into the community. So there's a lot of great things happening and great things to come. And certainly when our community policing position is transitioned into a civilian running that, we're going to have a corporal, boots on the ground, helping out with crime reduction, focusing on those chronic offenders. Our watch clerks have been outstanding, as we all know. The office manager, which we hadn't had for years and years, just unbelievable. The tranquility, I call it, at that detachment, and those our municipal employees working together with the members is just purring along very, very nicely. It's very effective. So I thank you for that. Means a lot.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the pleasure of meeting the mayor from Parksville, and he said, I'm really mad at Port Alberni for stealing you. And if I ever happen to meet the mayor from Picticton, I'm going to say the same thing to him. So again, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Paulson said. I've really enjoyed meeting you and working with you. You're a great person. And if we are bucking the trend in any of these statistics, it's due to your leadership and the hard work of our CMP detachment. So best of luck to you, and
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
it's not me, guys. You have an amazing detachment over there. Very, very dedicated people.
Great. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, echoing what other councillors are saying, and I must admit you're the first inspector I ever sat across the table and ate pizza with. So. Anyway, what the question on everybody's mind is, when are you leaving?
Thank you for that. So in the RCMP, we have to sell a house before we can move on, purchase a house on the other end. Our house is for sale. And once that sells, Julie and I will head over to Penticton and purchase a new home over there and continue on the next chapter in that regard. And in that vein, the RCMP is currently working on narrowing down your next OIC for interview, and they should be in touch fairly shortly in that regard. And I'm confident you'll get a great leader in here to continue the great work that's been happening in partnership with you guys.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Corbeil.
Yeah, a couple quick questions. Under property crime, there's a category theft, and I noticed there's auto theft and bike theft and B&E and shoplifting. What's left? What does theft define?
So theft is not those, stuff left on your lawn, stuff stolen out of beside your house, stuff stolen across the street. The city has had stuff stolen out of locations. So if it's not defined by break and enter through theft through a break and enter, shoplifting, theft of bicycles is a defined one because there's a lot of that and we like to identify that. But this is just general theft that doesn't fit into the other categories. And as you can see, it's up significantly. Like, guys, these folks that are addicted, they will steal anything that is not bolted down. And you think it's not worth anything, and a lot of times it isn't, but they're going to steal it. And we could do a better job of securing our valuables for sure.
The second question I had, and I think you've answered it, Brian, is the break and enters into businesses. It's gone up 600% quarter over those 5 years. And could you comment on that if you already haven't? Why has it gone from 4 in quarter 3 in 2015 up to 24? What's your feel?
Well, I can speak for this the last year, and James Jones Jr. is responsible for most of those. That's one individual. I'd like to get into some details of that case, but I can't. That made it very interesting and challenging. At one point in time, we had a task force of well over a dozen police officers just focused on that. This individual was breaking into commercial buildings through the ventilation systems and that type of thing, creating a lot of damage. But that's certainly the case there. And I can't speak for, obviously in 2015, business B&Es was quite low. This has to do with your chronic offenders that are in the community taking advantage of breaking into businesses. Whoever the chronic offenders are at that time, and I stress chronic offenders are the majority of our issues in the community, like any community, and it's whoever was active at that time. So hopefully next year at this time, when your new inspector is up here, we're way down from 24, hopefully.
Well, I'd want to, like my colleagues, Brian, thank you for your obvious dedication.
Thank you.
Councillor Solda.
I have a couple of questions. One is the transients. Are you finding that, is it local residents that are doing the break-ins or any damages and et cetera, or is it transients? Because there's a lot of people saying, oh, it's the transients coming into our community.
Your Worship, the majority of our crimes are from locals. They're from here and committing those crimes. They're suffering from addictions, and we see them out there. And certainly, our community is doing the best we can to help these folks. Obviously, as a society, we can do a little bit better, but it takes money, lots of money, to actually grab an individual and get them into supportive recovery if they want it, of course. But the majority are from within the community. You have the one-offs like Corey Smith that was from out of town, and he's on conditions in the next 3 years. He's not allowed to be here, which is a good thing.
And the other one was, you see a lot of people, or just people in general, making comments. We phoned the RCMP, we had this issue, and they said, well, we're not coming in that. What would you say to those people? I just say, well, there's other important crimes. Not that yours isn't a big issue, but
yeah,
you know.
I don't like responding in a way like I'm making excuses, and I'm certainly not making excuses. It's a very busy detachment. So a lot of these crimes, while it's devastating, your shed was broken into, your stuff was taken, your favorite gnomes out of your front flower bed and stuff like that, and they are serious crimes. But there's a triage of stuff ahead of that our members are responding to.
Yep.
And quite frankly, it might take a couple of days to respond to that, depending what's in the queue. Some of our members come on shift and there's 12 files waiting for them. And some of them are violent calls that we have to get to. And some of these calls, and you guys know this, we could have 2 members up at the hospital for 4 hours with a dangerous client waiting for them to be committed. That's a lot of time spent on that stuff. So it's just a matter, we prioritize our calls for service, and you know what, we could have a very important file at the top, and next thing you know, a call comes in and it supersedes that super emergency type of thing that's happening.
And I thank you for that, because I think it's important for the public to understand and realize it's not because we're just ignoring them, right? And
I can assure you, the members are not at the detachment with their feet up on the desk twiddling their thumbs.
yeah.
The majority of all of our day shifts, they don't even have a lunch. And I'm not saying woe is me. They're grabbing a sandwich on the go and they're going call to call to call. non-stop. So it's not a case of, to heck with it, we're not going to it. Not at all.
I did some ride-bys when I had that portfolio for the RCMP years ago, so it was kind of interesting on that. Just to let you know, yeah, I was one of those people that forgot to lock their car one night, and I came in the morning, and yeah, somebody had gone shopping in my car. Lucky it was only cheap sunglasses and left the expensive ones there, so it was really great. I just wanted to share that.
Things do happen. Get into a routine.
Yeah.
Do the 9 o'clock routine.
Yep,
It
thank
works.
you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your report, and certainly echoing what everyone else has said here. Thanks for all that you've contributed to this community over the last few years. It's been wonderful working with you, and you will
Thank you.
certainly be missed.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I just really want to thank the entire detachment for their work on that commercial break-and-enter string of crimes. I think that's something that the entire community was feeling because we were seeing, you know, businesses like Healthy Habits that had just invested in a new location, you know, have multiple break-ins, and I think we were all feeling for them and feeling, you know, nervous about our own businesses and properties in general. And the RCMP did a fantastic job on that, so we really appreciate it. And just on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you guys for that.
Perfect. And if I could give one more taste of what it's like at the detachment, when that was happening, our members get upset and they get driven, and they're coming in on their own time to help out the other members to put this person in. We don't. It's people need to know it's not like whatever, another B&E. Not at all. We take it personally, and we were pretty darn happy as well when we were able to hold them account.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you for your report. Would somebody like to move receipt?
Second, Madam Mayor.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the fun stuff, bylaws. So item 1, permissive tax exemption bylaw.
Madam Mayor, I have to be excused because perceived conflict of interest.
Thank you. So permissive tax exemption bylaw 2020, bylaw number 4997. To begin, we have a letter dated October 20th, 2019 from the Alberni Valley Senior Citizens Home Society requesting that council revisit their application for a permissive tax exemption. And would somebody like to move receipt of that letter? Councillor Paulson?
I'd like to move that the letter dated October 20th, 2019 from the Alberni Valley Senior Citizens Home Society requesting that council revisit their application for a permissive tax exemption be received.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Madam Mayor.
And are there any comments on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the next item, permissive tax exemption bylaw 2020, bylaw number 4997. Councillor Paulson, do you want to read that one as well?
I can do that, sure. I'd like to move that the permissive tax exemption bylaw 2020, bylaw number 4997, be now finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed with the corporate seal and numbered 4997.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that one? Okay, and any questions or comments on final reading? Adoption? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll get Councillor Solda back in. Thank you. And item 2 is the 5-year financial plan 2019 to 2023, amendment number 1, bylaw number 4984-1. And this is a final reading as well. Do any councillors need clarification or questions on this? Okay, Councillor Paulson?
I'm just going to go back to the question that I asked in the last council meeting. It just has to do with the line on capital expenses. And in 2023, the capital expense line is at $11,658,645. In the year previous to that, it is $3,295,571. I know we probably already know what this is, but I need my memory refreshed, that there's a jump of almost $8 million in capital expenses in 2023.
Okay, CAO?
Madam Mayor, I apologize, I don't have that information, and Councillor Paulson did ask that question. It probably doesn't help if I tell you that those numbers were approved during the budget process, and at the last meeting we brought an amended budget that didn't change Didn't necessarily change that line. So we weren't armed to answer that question then, and I didn't bring the answer this time. I apologize. I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson, would you like to read that motion also?
Here we go.
You just read them all.
Yeah, that's right. I'd like to move that the 5-year financial plan 2019 to 2023 amendment number 1, bylaw number 4981-1, be now finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with a corporate seal, and numbered 4984-1.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Okay, and any further questions? All in favor? Carried. And item 3, business license regulation bylaw from the city of Port Alberni, number 4951-2. And this is the final reading as well. Are there any questions or clarifications around this one? We unfortunately don't typically allow public questions at this point. If council is, and this is a final reading, but if council wants to allow a question from the public. Okay, if you want to come on forward. And if you can just state your name and address, that'd be great, even though we know who you are.
So Major Ride, 398 Redford Street. I was just wondering if you guys could expand on the bylaw and just give the information that you guys are going to be carrying forward, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if the Deputy City Clerk wants to give just an overview of what the change is. I believe it was most largely around the fees for business licenses.
Yes, certainly, Madam Mayor. So at the previous, council previously considered an amendment to this bylaw, which is essentially just addressing and identifying a fee related to cannabis outlets. Previous amendments that council moved forward with captured permitting these uses but neglected to identify a fee associated with the same. So that's what this amendment is doing at this time, speaking to an annual fee of $2,500 and then renewal fees after the first, when it first opens and is approved. Renewal fees will then be $220 per year.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any, okay, great. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That $2,500, does that include the government cannabis store as well?
So I think we asked that at the last meeting, that they are subject to paying it also. Yes. Okay, great. Any further questions? Okay, and if I remember correctly, when we discussed fees, when we were going through this process, we opted to put in a higher fee for the initial year because of the additional work for our staff and the time that it takes to go through this process for an initial year setup, and then going forward it should operate just like a regular business and not have that kind of extra time required. So it was really just to recapture the staff time that we're spending. Okay, Councillor Washington, would you like to read that motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That the business license regulation bylaw, City of Port Alberni, bylaw number 4951-2, be finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with a corporate seal, and numbered 4951-2.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Second. And any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And item 4, Deputy City Clerk, October 15th, public hearing. So we have a report from the public hearing from October 15th. Are there any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, Councillor Poon, would you like to move your seat?
Yes, I'll move that report of the public hearing held October 15th, 2019 regarding bylaw numbers 4995 and 4996 be received.
Thank you. Okay. And seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried. And item 5, official community plan amendment number 28 for 5536 and 5546 Swallow Drive Power, bylaw number 4995. And this is a third reading. Councillor Corbeil, could you read that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that the official community plan amendment number 28, 5536 and 5546 Swallow Drive Power, bylaw number 4995 be read a third time.
Is there a seconder? Okay, and are there any questions or comments on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And number zoning bylaw amendment number 36, 5536, and 5546, Swallow Drive Power, bylaw number 4996, so just the zoning side of it. Councillor Corbeil, do you want to read that one as well?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the zoning bylaw amendment number 36, 5536, and 5546 Swallow Drive Power, bylaw number 4996 be read a third time.
Thank you. Okay, and any questions or comments on this one? Yep.
Just a
Councillor
quick
Paulson.
comment. I mean, in the public hearing, we certainly heard some concerns, and I know that we all received that input. And I feel that we heard from the proponent as well, and I think the proponent pretty well laid all of those concerns. And I think a year from now, when we see that building there in an empty lot, I think that community's going to be happy with it. So, fair comment.
I would definitely echo that. And I do think that, we heard some bylaw related concerns that I think are outside of the land use planning. But I do think it would be worth just checking in. I mean, there were some unhappy neighbors about the current condition of the lot. We might want to check in with our bylaw department and see if there actually have been complaints made and follow up on where they're at with those. But I don't think that's needs to be a part of the land use planning side of things. So, okay. Councillor Paulson, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And item 7 from the City Clerk, lane closure adjacent to 3508 and 3514 4th Avenue and removal of dedication, bylaw number 4999.
Consideration of a lane closure bylaw and new lane dedication to accommodate an exchange of land on 4th Avenue to LB wood choppers. The map is on the screen so you can see what we're referring to. Council received a request at an in-camera meeting to purchase the public lane access adjacent to the property at 3508 4th Avenue in order that they may construct a new building on the property. Because of the need for truck access to the infrastructure located in the adjoining lane that runs north-south, Council agreed to an exchange of land rather than a sale of the existing lane, and where the property owner would provide a portion of land that could be dedicated as a new lane and allow for the closure of the existing lane and consolidation of the property. So the proposed new lane, you can see on there, is along the north portion of 3514 4th Avenue. It's a similar size to the lane that's going to be closed. It's a 20-foot wide strip and is adequate for the city's purposes. It accommodates a turning radius adequate for trucks and City Works vehicles. All of the costs associated with the land exchange would be borne by the property owner. Council has been asked, therefore, to consider introduction and 3 readings of the bylaw to close and remove the dedication of the existing lane. Following 3 readings, notice would be provided to the public that Council intends to adopt the bylaw at their next regular meeting on November 12th. And a copy of the notice would also be sent to property owners and business owners within the affected area. And Council would have the opportunity to consider all input prior to final adoption. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from Council? Okay, looks like you explained it very well. Councillor Washington, would you like to read that first motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that the report dated October 21, 2019 from the City Clerk be received.
Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Carried. If you want to continue.
Move that the lane closure adjacent to 3508 and 3514 4th Avenue and the removal of dedication bylaw number 4999 now be introduced and read a first time.
Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Carried.
And that the lane closure adjacent to 3508 and 3514 4th Avenue and the removal of the dedication bylaw 499 be read a second time.
Okay, seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried.
And that the lane closure adjacent to 3508 and 3514 4th Avenue and the removal of dedication bylaw number 4999 be read a third time.
All in favor? Carried.
and that staff be directed to advertise the city's intention to adopt lane closure adjacent to 3508, 3514 4th Avenue, and removal of dedication bylaw number 4999 at its November 12, 2019 regular meeting of council, and provide notification to property and business owners in the affected block.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And moving on to correspondence for action, we have one item from the Alberni Clayoquot Métis Association, and it's a letter dated October 24th, 2019, from the President requesting City Hall fly the Métis flag on Saturday, November 16th, 2019, in respect of Louis Riel Day.
Motion to concur with the request, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. No proclamations. Informational correspondence. City Clerk.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have two pieces of correspondence on the agenda. One from the Scott Fraser MLA, speaking to the new funding opportunity through an existing program, that being the Community Childcare Space Creation Program and the Community Childcare Planning Grant Program. And they're receiving applications now November 22nd and January 31st, 2020, respectively. And you also have correspondence from the Ministry of Transportation, following up from your meetings that were held at UBCM, and their intent to have their district manager touch base with city staff to speak about the Johnston Road corridor.
Thank you. Council, I'd like to discuss item 1, the letter from Scott Fraser letting us know about the Community Childcare Space Creation Program. Childcare isn't really something that we have talked about as a council, but as you'll be aware from the letter from Minister Fraser, there's up to $4 million per project available at 100% funding. I was a part of the announcement of this program at UBCM with the minister, and she gave some really great examples of projects that have happened in the past and kind of spoke to the opportunity. She actually highlighted, there was a panel follow up to that, and on the panel they highlighted projects that the kind of format of them was that they had an old community hall or a community building that needed a lot of renovations, and that was a building that was going to end up, costing the municipality money. And instead, what they did, rather than the municipality renovating the building or putting a new roof on or doing something else, they used this program to add a childcare facility onto that building or renovate space within. And then the municipality partnered with a local nonprofit childcare provider. And through that, the municipality got 100% funding for, the buildings in these cases were $2 million and $2.5 million. So they, received all of that money into the community, and then the childcare spaces additionally, and used that as a way to fund some of the renovations that their local buildings needed. So I know that this is a short turnaround, but I feel like it's an opportunity that might not necessarily come again, especially now that it's been expanded to $4 million. This project was previously $1 million, and that's the Friendship Center. They went through the space creation program and received $500,000 for their project. Now it's $4 million. So I would like to see us at least explore this, and I'm wondering how council feels about asking staff to look at opportunities and maybe bring back a short list of if there is an opportunity for us to pursue here. Councillor Haggard?
I agree, Madam Mayor. Anytime you have an ability to get some funding to, number one, fix up some spaces that we might not be able to afford to do, and number two, create child care spaces that's desperately needed, we should explore every avenue possible.
Absolutely. Councillor Poon?
Yes, I think this is a really good project to work on, and it'll cost us almost nothing but staff time. So I think we should go ahead with it.
And I'll just say as well that I knew about this program previously, but in my mind, I was seeing it that if a municipality built the project, the municipality would have to run the childcare center. And we have previously been in the business of a preschool, and we opted to get out of that business. And I don't think that we want the city actually running a facility. That's not our core business. But when I learned that you could partner with a nonprofit to operate, and not only that, but the government is actually building in enough funds in the way the nonprofit is funded to pay a lease to the municipality. So it could be a revenue generator for us as well. That's when I kind of thought, wow, how are we, passing over this opportunity? Councillor Paulson?
You stole my thunder about the past history. Not being a core service.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that there is not a shortage in our community of preschool spaces, but there is a shortage of daycare, childcare spaces. So there's a difference between those two. What we were previously running, and the reason we shut it down, was a preschool, and there were ample preschool spaces in the community that were run by the private sector or by nonprofit. So this would be very different, and there is a childcare shortage in the community. Okay. So I will make a motion for staff to explore this opportunity and bring back recommendations. Second, Madam Mayor. Okay. Any further comments? Okay. Seeing. Oh, Councillor Poon. Pre-voting. All in favor. Carried. and then I'll move that informational correspondence items 1 and 2 be received and filed. Second, Madam Mayor. Okay. And would anyone like to speak to the other item? It's a follow-up to UBCM. Councillor Paulson was in that meeting.
Well, just the meeting was really a good meeting, I thought, and I just wanted to make sure that in the letter they mentioned follow-up. So let's not let them off the hook there, and we could even be proactive and figure out dates and times to get together with staff, and it's low-hanging fruit, so it's stuff that we could do in the next year or two with Department of Highways cooperation. So I don't know what your take was from the meeting, but it was very positive.
Yeah, I would echo that. And in that meeting, they did commit to sending Michael Pearson and their engineer to look at Lower Johnson Road again and start talking about pedestrian safety improvements. They also asked that we send another copy of the Johnson Road charrette and our strategic plan to kind of highlight the direction that we want to go in terms of pedestrian safety. So maybe CAO can comment on that in the meeting.
Madam Mayor, we're so proactive, we've got a meeting set for November 21st already.
Wonderful.
With staff.
Great. And have we forwarded our strategic plan and Johnson Road charrette?
Yes, we have.
Just so on top of it. Great. Okay. Oh, Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I hope they also go and talk to some of the businesses, especially at that one particular crosswalk, because they have witnessed near misses, but they never get reported, so they're not on the stats. And especially with the traffic so backed up to the school or to the tracks and that, nobody realizes people stop for another reason. Mm-hmm. And so I hope they do that.
Thank you. Okay. On receipt of the informational correspondence, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And no report from in-camera, so moving on to council reports. Would anyone like to highlight items from their report? Councillor Haggard.
This was not on my report, but I just want to congratulate Porta Players with Director Cindy Solda at the helm on putting on a fantastic show for the community. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can't wait to see it. Okay, any other items for people to highlight? So I just want to highlight a couple of things that, of course, are not in my written report.
Where is your report? Oh.
So I want to highlight a couple of things that should be in my written report. So specifically, Councillor Haggard and myself attended the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance last week, and a couple of sessions that I thought were very valuable. One of them was a session, and we specifically went to different sessions all throughout because there were so many that were valuable to go to. One of them was a session on with a panel with the owner of Phillips Brewery and then another Vancouver Island distillery and a Vancouver Island winery. It was a really interesting session on the challenges of opening small businesses like that and what it takes to be an entrepreneur nowadays. And one comment really stood out to me was from the owner of the distillery talking about how difficult it is to navigate municipal zoning and how, especially for a distillery, typically that zoning doesn't exist in communities, and you know that going in you have to you're going to have a lot of process to go through to get it ready. And he really strongly advocated for municipalities to create districts where, you know, if you want to set up a brewery, if you want to set up a distillery, where they know that they can come in and that zoning is in place, and they just have to go through, you know, their building inspections and fire inspections and other licensing. But that is one hurdle that's kind of already taken care of. And that really stood out to me. And when we were at UBCM last year, the keynote speaker, I can't remember her name now. Oh, Arlene Dickinson, made a lot of very similar comments about deciding where you want certain businesses and entrepreneurs and breaking down those barriers so that they know where they belong and they don't have to go through a process with maybe some uncertainty involved to ask. So as we move through the next few months, and certainly as we get closer to doing a new OCP, I think we should be really considering these things. As we know, our Dog Mountain Brewing had to go through a rezoning process to get their space up and running. Hopefully it'll be open soon. It's looking fantastic. And if we can make that process easier for small businesses, and then we can also intentionally, set up the businesses that we want where we want them, then I think that our community will be more successful in general. Another panel that I went to actually featured, it was an investors panel, and I couldn't really figure out why Cascadia seaweed was on that panel. It didn't really fit with the other two, but it was definitely they were the part of the presentation that the entire room got the most excited about. And I'm not sure if Council is aware, but Cascadia seaweed is partnered with New Channel seaweed, and they are going to be cultivating seaweed in the inlet, and then looking to be a part of our food hub building to process that seaweed. It was really interesting just having an opportunity to hear what kind of their business model is and how quickly they saw this opportunity and turned it around, and what they see the potential of seaweed cultivation, of cultivating seaweed in our area, and then the market and how large the market is for specifically what they're doing. So it was great to connect with them afterward. I think those are the two things I wanted to highlight from there. Councillor Haggard, did you want to highlight any specific sessions?
I don't have my list in front of me, but I think it was in the economic development presentation. They presented 5 things, emerging trends for economic activity, and Port Alberni isn't really a part of any of them. One of them was cannabis and tourism. Those are the 2 I remember, but I did write them down. I'll put in my next report. So I think you really have to start working on upcoming trends for this community and try and work on capitalizing on them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think in general it was great to be there, and Pat Deacon attends that conference every year. I'm not sure if we've sent councillors to it in the past or not. But I was really happy to be able to attend, and definitely came back with a lot of ideas that we'll be sharing going forward. Okay, with that, would somebody like to move receipt of our reports? So moved. Okay, is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Carried. And any new business from councillors? Seeing none. Question period. Should be quite quiet. An opportunity for public and press to ask questions of mayor and council.
Sleuth is back there.
Seeing none. Adjournment. Would somebody like to move adjournment?
So move, Madam Mayor.
Second. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.